Conversation is a meeting of minds with different memories and habits. Those who thrive understand not to reshuffle the deck, but rather create new ones. Theodore Zeldin. When we think about meetings and how to speak up in meetings, so many of us are afraid. Brendan, I don't want to share my ideas. I'm afraid of what other people will think of me. Well, those days are coming to a close because in this week's episode of Master Talk, I'm going to show you how you can share your ideas in any boardroom, any classroom, or any meeting so that people hear what you have to say and want you to contribute more. So let's get into it. Number one, speaking up in meetings implies that you believe in your point of view so much that you need to share it. The first step to speaking up in meetings is by first believing in your own point of view. So now the question is, how do you achieve that? Well, how you develop that is by having opinions about how the industry should be. Ask yourself deep, meaningful questions about what the meeting is about. What is your role and your purpose in that meeting? And what is the idea that you want to contribute with others? And why is that idea important to you and everyone else in the company or the organization that you're speaking those ideas to? When you start to develop a sense of purpose around who you are, what you believe in, and why you want to share those beliefs, that's when speaking up in a meeting becomes a lot easier. Because most of us, we go into a meeting, we don't really know why we're being called into it, we don't really understand what our role is, and what ideas we want to contribute. So of course, the nerves, the fear that come from those meetings are commonplace because, well, I'm afraid of saying something really not interesting. So preparation is always key, and that preparation stems from first understanding one's own point of view about how this meeting should go, what ideas should be contributed, and from that perspective, you can share the things that you care about to the world a lot easier. Number two, you need to spend a good amount of time understanding the people in that meeting before speaking out in them. I've always believed that the people in the meeting drive the way that you lead conversation. When you speak to your friends and family, you can be pretty casual. They're just your pals. They're people you've known for a long time. So you don't really need to structure your thoughts. You just kind of go with the wind. But in the case of boardroom meetings or even classroom presentations, there's a certain goal that you want to achieve in that meeting, and there's different people there. So by first listening to what other people have to say, it'll give you a better indicator of who they are, what are their motives, what are their intentions, what do they want out of this meeting, and what are the types of personalities in the room. Are they people who like to cut other people off? Are they more quiet, more introverted? It's important to get a profile on all these different people so it makes it easier for you to figure out when to speak up in the meeting and what to share when it's your turn to speak. And if you don't get a turn, it's all about figuring out how to get one as well. So in that context, spend a lot of time listening to your audience and always ask yourself the same question. Why are they in the meeting and what ideas do they want to contribute? And once you figure out everyone, you can start to find allies, people that already know who you are, already trust you to help give you space in a meeting to share those ideas. So what I always like to do is the people that I trust before the meeting, I tell them my ideas. So if I don't get that chance to share something during, somebody else goes, hey, I know Brendan talked to me about this great idea before this meeting. I'd love to share it with everyone. So that gives you a better indicator of how to better prepare by understanding each piece of the puzzle, each person in the boardroom, and seeing who can partner up with you so that you can make sure your ideas are heard in that meeting. And finally, number three, understand the outcomes of each meeting so you know how to execute on them. Simple, once again, but heavily misunderstood. What are we trying to achieve in the meeting? Is the goal to teach somebody a concept, to get something done, to do a political favor, or really just to pass time? It's important that you get really clear on what that intention is. Because once you understand the goal of the meeting, that will allow you, it'll inform you on how to communicate there. Because if the goal is just for a favor, you don't really need to spend time preparing for this because you already met the goal. But if your goal is to get a promotion, to stand out, to be a personal brand so that people know who you are from that conversation, you want to prepare in advance. That means figuring out those 1-2 key ideas you want to share during that time you have with everyone and making sure those points land sharply, concisely, and in a way that's really impressive. I'll give you the best example of that. Let's say you want to impress a senior level executive or someone who's really high up and you only have 15 minutes with them. You want to make sure that those 15 minutes count. So what I used to do when I was working is I would literally write out the email with all of the points, all of the bullets, all the detailed rationale. So if I got nervous during the call or during a meeting, I could easily go back to that email and say, oh, these are the points I'm supposed to talk about here. That 5 minutes of preparation, that 10 minutes of extra time that nobody else is taking in your company, or really in general, are going to make the world of a difference for you standing out in that meeting. So always think about what is the outcome you want to achieve and what is the best way of achieving that outcome in a way where people go, wow, this person is amazing. I want this person at my next meeting. They're always making me feel heard and seen and understood, and I want that person to add more value to the spaces that they create. As Theodore once said, the goal is not to reshuffle the deck, but create new ones. We jump into so many meetings where nothing happens. Be the difference maker. Because at the end of the day, meetings is all about shape-shifting into the different roles and the outcomes that you want from each one. So I suggest that you find those outcomes as quickly as possible, shape-shift your role so you can achieve those outcomes, and then create new decks, new topics of discussion that only you can lead. And if you do all of those things, I think you'll speak up in meetings just fine. As always, if you enjoyed this week's episode of Master Talk, be sure to smash that like button and subscribe to the YouTube channel as well to see more videos like this. And if you know one person that really doesn't like meetings, that is scared to speak up in meetings, that doesn't want to go to meetings, send them this video so that they'll be one step closer to leading everyone else in their meetings. Take care.